Hey, guy. Hey, how you doing? Hey, come on in. Come on in.
Black executives. Still a relatively rare breed in corporate America, but maybe, just maybe, a key to this country's industrial competitiveness.
We in the African American community understand the need for diversity. We've understood it for a long time.
What's the central question again?
We've been trying to get in. But the question is, does America understand the need for diversity? And are they ready to embrace diversity for the strength of America?
Richard who? We don't want it.
This may be the most successful group of black managers in corporate America. Executives past and present of the Xerox Corporation. They call themselves the Road Show because they're on the road constantly, pushing the idea that America's ethnic diversity is a competitive strength, not a weakness.
Are you from Huntsville?
They converged on Boston because tomorrow, every MBA student at the Harvard Business School will hear them tell the case history of the black network at Xerox.
Xerox senior management, in its infinite wisdom, somewhere along the line said, we're going to empower these men and their associates to be who and what they are. And we weren't really sure where that was going to take us. They weren't sure, we weren't sure. But what they did was say that we're going to trust you, and empower you to be African Americans and bring that to the table. And it worked.
Compared to the rest of corporate America, Xerox's success at promoting African Americans in the past 20 years has been graphic. Any way you count it, blacks make up less than 6% of U.S. management. At Xerox, more than 11% of all managers are African American. More revealing still is a comparison of top managers. Here, the national average appears to be around 0.5% for blacks, 1% for minorities in general. At Xerox, by contrast, of 196 top executives, fully 9% are black, 17% minority. At Xerox, they say they're not just trying to fill affirmative action quotas. At every level, the company claims to be getting the loyalty and sense of corporate community that's usually associated with the Japanese.
We made a pact back in 1972, 1973. I mean, the same group of guys here and some that are not here, that we would never compete against each other. And do you know how difficult that is in a corporate setting for people to say they're not going to compete against each other when we were all competing for the same jobs, essentially? And you know what? We never did. And we all basically got our vice presidencies or the directorships or plant managers or whatever area we were at, because we always knew that our back was covered. In other words, we didn't have to look behind us because we knew everybody that we loved was in front of us.
The roadshow member who's risen highest thus far is Barry Rand, president of marketing at Xerox and one of its half-dozen or so top executives.
What's happening, Mr. President?
In Japan, workers join firms for life and form their own interpersonal networks. Rand says that's happening with blacks at Xerox.
In the black culture, just so happens that the major strategy that has allowed black people to flourish, to survive and then flourish, happens to be one of unity. We know that we historically have never been able to make it unless we unify and help ourselves.
I can't type. I don't take dictation.
In its sensitivity to women and minorities, Xerox has had to come a long way, as this early TV ad makes pretty clear.
My boss calls me indispensable.
Miss Jones,
Just a minute.
will you make a copy of this?
But at Xerox, they've made an unprecedented effort, begun in the late 60s, only a few years after this ad campaign, to get minorities to the top. Former CEO David Kearns.
We looked at where had the white male managers that were running the corporation come from. And we spotted those jobs and said, these are the kinds of experiences that you need if you're going to run a corporation like Xerox. As a result, then, we said, over the years, we're going to have women and minorities in those feeder jobs if we're ever going to have a broad range of executives to run the business. And that's exactly what we did.
In corporate America as a whole, after years of uniformity, companies have finally begun to recognize the need for diversity. Unfortunately, many of the attempts are half-hearted, if not half-baked. Tacos in the company cafeteria, for instance, or the promotion of a few token minority members to executive slots created just for them. At Xerox, however, they claim they're trying not just to cope with America's ethnic diversity, but to capitalize on it. Minorities are encouraged to use their ethnicity as a source of mutual support, of group identity, of corporate identity. African Americans do it through a network known as the Black Caucus.